Hey everybody, welcome. Alex with healthhacksreview.com. If you don't know about me, I am an expert in several product categories. I review, research all kinds of different devices, medical devices, therapeutic devices, figure out what's best, and I also sell a variety of different type of equipment as well. So there's a lot of information out there, and topic of this video is actually on traumatic brain injuries and also just other brain conditions as well. The brain actually is involved in so many different types of debilitating diseases and conditions, everything from ADHD to post-stroke to Alzheimer's, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm going to go over on this video what I feel is some of the best protocols, equipment, devices for producing rapid healing, great efficacy, good outcomes, which is definitely achievable. Neurogenesis is a real thing. The brain can change, can heal, but it needs the right elements, right technologies. And there are some amazing things out there for reversing most brain conditions and injuries rapidly, but very few people know about them. Hence, they talk to me. And I guide practitioners, I guide home users, all kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to touch on some of the better things out there. So one thing you may not know have heard of is transcranial magnetic stimulation. I probably have encountered it possibly, them, on the news, some sort of special pulsing magnetic pulses into the brain. Most of it is pretty crude. It's not that advanced out there. But there is an exception. This is Brain Treatment Center. They are located in a few different states and a couple different countries. They have a few locations on the West Coast, soon coming to Virginia on the East Coast, which is nice. But anyways, this is the most advanced, light years advanced by comparison to other TMS out there. So what is so cutting edge and breakthrough about this? Well, their website, if you do read about it a little bit, it's not that easy to understand why this is really so breakthrough unless you have more knowledge about other technologies out there, neurofeedback, biofeedback, other TMS out there, etc., or other technologies. But so what they're doing here is very unique. They're working off of at least a database of 100,000 EEGs, that's brain scans, QEEGs. So out of that huge database, they're pulling a lot of information on how to restore the brain back to natural function. Let's say if somebody has dementia or something like that, or even autism, what would be considered normal, quote unquote. So they are working off of a normalization process, but also they do it in a completely customized process, which is very unique. So here we are doing the analysis and protocol right here. Data analysis of your brain, because you're a unique individual with a unique brain, unique condition, unique environmental factors, epigenetics, all sorts of stuff that have created something going on in your brain. So they do an EKG, because they're also now starting to bring in the heart and the heart-brain coherence, which is definitely crucial stuff, which has been studied for at least maybe 25 years, 30 years at this point. But anyways, but the main thing also is the EEG. So once they get all that data, then we go over here to analysis, analyzing it, and personalizing your protocol. So this is where they start to customize what your brain actually requires. Are you overactive in one area? Does it look like you have connectivity that's been damaged because of something? I mean, it could be a variety of things. So here we are now, the delivery of treatment. So they're now delivering the actual protocol, okay, with this little magnetic coil over different areas of the brain, or wherever the brain basically showed up that it needed assistance. Okay, so it might look like something like this in their visual analysis. It might look like that. This is causing restlessness, difficulty focusing. So they'll see brains like that. And this is just, of course, a visual data set. I mean, there's much more data sets that it provides, but too much interruption in the front due to a TBI, too much focus in the front here, could be depressive sort of tendencies, so on and so forth. This is actually what normal looks like. So nothing's really lit up. But anyways, that would be an example, of course, where they're moving the magnetic coil. It's customized. They can actually activate neural pathways. They can calm other ones. There's literally all kinds of stuff you can do with this. It's pretty incredible. Valuations. And that's basically it. They took some very advanced knowledge from all these scans and basically found a way to stimulate in a customized protocol with precision specific pathways, specific neuronal circuits in the brain. This is really cutting edge stuff. Most people don't even think this exists. This is almost like Star Trek technology to most people, or to the mainstream medical association, where actually they're getting incredible reversals with so many different types of conditions. I mean, really, really high, significant outcomes. And so they're slowly spreading, but really this is just going to, I think, totally revolutionize and change all kinds of stuff. So if you have any sort of brain issue, definitely at least chat with these people, get analysis, something like that. You need to know about this. And remember, there's all kinds of conditions that are related now to the brain. Even severe immune system issues can be rooted in the brain, is what they're finding. So anyways, this is a little box you want to check off and evaluate if you think you have any sort of brain issues going on. Another advanced technology, I would say different, but as advanced in their own kind of protocols and their different approach. This is not biofeedback. Okay, there are some principles that are similar, I would say, but it would be better just to not compare this to biofeedback, as you might have known about, or neurofeedback that's out there. Neurofeedback, biofeedback, a lot of times is being guided by the practitioner and guiding the brain in a way that the practitioner sees fit, or that they declare as normal. And it can also be actively guided by the user. So see, none of that really applies to this technology. This is an acoustic brain mirror. It's about as fancy and cool sounding as it sounds. So literally sounds. So what they found, this is through, again, working with the massive database, they found a way through specific algorithms to translate all kinds of brain signals, wavelengths, intensity, amplitude, I mean, all sorts of aspects of what is measurable in the brain, to translate it into sound, acoustic sound that you can actually listen to. Okay? So in other words, they call it an acoustic mirror because what happens here is that your brain then actually can see itself. It becomes self-aware of, like, a reflection. Like, you look in the mirror and imagine you saw that, oh, you had a scar on your face, or you had dirt on your face. I mean, whatever it is. Because of the mirror, you can now take action to correct, to fix. It's the exact same thing, what's happening here. The brain literally can listen to itself, its own functionality, in great detail. And then literally what happens, this is where the magic happens, the brain self-corrects, or optimizes, as they really like to use, optimization. Now, optimization doesn't sound that medical, doesn't sound that impressive, but this is very impressive technology. This is some of the latest and greatest stuff. The government, well, I should say the military, really just did a massive contract with them a few years back to create what ended up going into this device that you wear and you can use at home, Brain Intellect. So they actually had military money that ended up creating this home use version that basically modulates both lobes of the brain on the frontal cortex area. So it's like more of a watered down version, or it doesn't target all 60 regions like the full system does if you actually saw a practitioner, okay? But this is still incredible. Those frontal areas and on both lobes, most people have a lot of issues with those, just even from living and growing up in society nowadays. So, and this is generally a recommended protocol for those who have major brain issues, who go in for the full course of treatment. It might last a week or two, and then will continue to use this device at home. But this was literally more funded by the military for traumatic brain injuries and PTSD especially, and something that could just be worn out in the field, any country, anytime, just to keep, and even lower stress and increase performance and all kinds of stuff for the military, for the troops. So anyways, so this has a lot of research behind it. Military thought so as well. And that's pretty much it. It's incredible technology. Essentially what happens when the brain gets injured or has a stressful event happen, rewiring can happen, and those wiring neural pathways can fire together and wire together and create ingrained patterns that basically, until they're rewired through neurogenesis effects, which is basically what this creates. It creates a neurogenesis windows for the brain, and then for the brain basically goes through neurogenesis for about 30 days afterwards, more or less, to basically correct itself. See, the brain wants to work efficiently. Efficiently means efficiency with energy. If you got things that are firing at the wrong times and there's imbalances or injuries, or basically like a scar in the brain, just like you can scar your skin or your tissue, same thing can happen in the brain. And that can hang out there and cause more and more problems over time. The brain then sees that, says, this is an inefficiency, I need to correct this. That's the beauty. It's that simple, but also it was that complex to actually create such a mirror. This is extremely affordable technology, $1,500 to $3,000 for a few sessions. A few sessions meaning a week or two is pretty much what most people need. BTC, on the other hand, is like around $10,000. Very advanced, incredible stuff. And considering what we're talking about here, really healing the brain, I mean, that's cheap when you consider that there's not a lot of good other options. So most people are out of luck. Now, there are some other things I'll go over besides these very advanced technologies that I'm just reading this research here. I'm getting a little sidetracked. Anyways, I'll go over a few other things as well. Some of the best things for the brain as well is oxygen. Okay, when you go through brain injuries or other similar conditions, toxins even that can limit blood flow, thus oxygen to the brain because of inflammation in capillaries and all kinds of stuff. Oxygen, oxygen, oxygen is basically your answer. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy, that's what these things are. Okay, there's me. Basically is very well proven, had fantastic results on the brain, and is very easy to measure the results. They literally get an MRI, go do a few sessions, go do one session, and look at the brain afterwards. Big, big differences, to the point where the military just created a budget, this was a few years back, for, I forget what it was $100 million or 150, whatever it was, commissioned somebody I know to basically build these massive hyperbaric rooms for all the veterans. Okay, all the veterans with PTSD, depression, toxic issues, so on and so forth. Traumatic brain injuries, it was very common. And remember, it doesn't have to be like an injury, it can be literally an emotional trauma that can create the same lesions or issues in the brain, just FYI, if you don't know that. And that does show up on assessments. When you get an assessment with these guys, or you get an assessment with Brain State Technologies, they'll point that out. If they find something, they'll literally show you. But so it's good to get an assessment. Even if you don't go through their program, you should still get an assessment. And by the way, brain issues, even traumatic issues, way higher statistical than most people even imagine. Most people are actually, not most people, but a fair majority of people are walking around with brain issues, okay? And even undiagnosed TBIs is more common than you would imagine. So hyperbaric, the military was evaluating all kinds of technologies. This was at the top, okay? So this puts oxygen under pressure, if you didn't know. It's all about dissolving oxygen in the fluid, which then allows it to get to the cells and keeps cells not just alive, but optimally functioning. Okay, if you have subpar oxygen levels, then you have health problems. Okay, it could be anything. It could be depression, trouble seeing at night. I mean, migraines. Oxygen is connected to all kinds of things. When somebody has a stroke, what's really happening there? It's an occlusion. Occlusion means that oxygen, blood flow, that delivers what? Nutrients, oxygen, etc., is being obstructed in some way. It's the fallout of that obstruction that really gives rise to all of those after stroke issues. And again, this is also related to other brain issues, okay? Not just after a stroke per se, okay? So again, oxygen, oxygen, fantastic for the brain. Allows oxygen to get to areas where it might be having a challenge to get to in the body. That's the key here. So it's putting under pressure, okay? That's all you need to know. And for those wondering, yes, some of these chambers do the 1.5 ATA that we've seen reflected in a huge amount of studies. And yes, soft shell chambers do work. Hard shell chambers also work. Doctors who don't do enough research like to claim that hard shells are the only thing that work. a lot of times they're trying to sell you on hard shell sessions. That's why I'll tell you that. But I mean, there's such a massive track record of using soft shells at 1.5 ATA and getting awesome results. I mean, go talk to clinics across the country that have treated tens of thousands of people and have incredible results. Like, I can't move my arm after a stroke. Oh, wow, 2 weeks later, I can move my arm. That's actually not that impressive in the hyperbaric clinic world. In the American AMA, mainstream medicine, they would just say, oh, it's some freak recovery. It's just not supposed to happen. You know, but that's just all oxygen because you got to heal the occlusions. Life Extension Foundation, lef.org, by the way, they have a lot of great research of who's also doing other types of therapies for assisting with occlusions. So if you also want to know what else is out there, what's the latest, just go check out the organization, call them up and find out. There are some other technologies. But this is also easy to do at home. There is OxyHealth, that's one of the main brands. There's Newtown. I sell all this kind of stuff. But as a dealer for these, Newtown for a home user, if you don't want to spend a lot, Newtown's an excellent brand. Pretty much half the price of an OxyHealth. And for home use, Newtown totally sufficient. You don't need to spend a lot on getting some brand new $15,000 OxyHealth chamber or something like that. If you're a commercial clinic doing a lot of volume, maybe, and for some other reasons as well, not just durability, but Newtown's great. I like them. Anyway, so that's that with oxygen, but I'm not done with oxygen. Oxygen's fantastic stuff. There's other ways to get oxygen. This is the Hockett. Okay, and so with the Hockett, you basically have around 8 different modalities. Maybe it's 9, I always lose track. That basically are facilitated through this cabin chamber. So it's extremely unique because you're getting multiple modalities simultaneously. They enhance, they amplify one each other. They're synergistic. So we're getting aromatherapy, we're getting CO2, the carbon dioxide, when it mixes with steam, heat, and the infrared that this also puts out, will create carbonic acid. Carbonic acid is just as important as oxygen. A lot of people don't know that. And carbonic acid, amazing vasodilator, also has an effect on establishing balance, restoring balance in the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic to parasympathetic balance. This is something that gets disturbed when somebody has a brain issue or somebody's body has a huge amount of inflammation. There's some traumatic issue. In other words, most of the time, people are walking around with imbalances in the parasympathetic to sympathetic response, overactive HPA axis, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and so not too many modalities out there that really establish that well, but they're finding really carbonic acid is fantastic for bringing back a balance to that, lowering stress and cortisol, and again, calming that HPA axis, combining that calming effect. Now, what they do basically is they'll first treat you with, there's the steam, there's the infrared, right, coming through this chamber, and then basically, and they explain it on this page on their website, once they pre-treat you with that and it absorbs into your body, get some major vasodilation, then that's when the ozone kicks in. The ozone's kicking in with the heat, okay, that's happening in there, and that turns it into hydrogen peroxide on the skin, which then gets absorbed through the pores of the body directly into the lymphatic system. And so basically you have a huge amplification of oxygenation in the body because of the pre-treatment with carbonic acid. No other device does this, by the way. Carbonic acid they've known about, by the way, for hundreds of years. It was detected a while back in hot springs, and that's what was making hot springs so therapeutic, some of them over in Europe. That's where we learned about it. And then at the end, when you do open the cabin, it does destruct. There's 2 destructors, charcoal destructors, for the steam and any toxins that were released, along with destructing the ozone. So then that gets released into the room. What else does it also do? There's an electronic e-stim. That e-stim has a variety of different frequencies that can eradicate parasites. Most people have a parasitic issue when they become very ill. So this chamber really handles it all. But anyways, about the oxygen, it's really because of the combination of raising your metabolic rate, your core body temperature, meaning a hyperthermia response, then flushing the body with the ozone, carbonic acid, This produces awesome results. Then there's the nervous system autonomic balancing. It's just amazing for the brain, basically. It's amazing for everything, but again, this is something that is really good for the brain. So you can always talk to me, and I can look up in a database, see if there's a place around you that you can try. A huge amount of doctors are jumping on board with this, actually. It's well accepted in the Alternative Complementary Institute of Medicine, ACIM. Doctors are going bananas over it as well because they're just getting results, literally, with anybody who walks through the door. So, all right, last but not least, what is more efficient and powerful than hyperbaric therapy? Well, I would tell you, it's exercise with oxygen therapy, or EWOT, E-W-O-T. You may see that if you Google around. Now, that's also known as, technically, von Arden, when this was researched by a German guy way back when. It's called multi-step oxygen therapy. And so multi-step, what they're talking about here is they have you exercising, usually on a stationary bike, doing what's called Tabata interval or high-intensity interval training. Essentially, if you go on Mercola and just type in HIT, H-I-T as in Tom, training, you'll basically see Mercola go over it. It's all over the internet, of course. It's where you sprint on some exercise equipment, and then for a few seconds, it's an interval, then you go slower, more slow, and then you sprint again. You go through cycles of that, 9 to 12 cycles depending, and your sprints could last anywhere from like 30 to 40 seconds, maybe do a slower pace at 20 seconds or 30. It's really however you want to play around with it and what your health condition is. So back to this, exercise with oxygen. Yes, you're exercising, 1. Step 2, you're breathing in oxygen. You're not breathing pure oxygen. This is a concentrator. Concentrates oxygen atmospherically to 94 to 97%. And then this is also not just flowing into your mask. It's flowing up into this reservoir, the magic reservoir. And this is one of the things that sets this system, this brand, apart from a couple other EWOTs out there. And so this reservoir can handle, forget what it is. It's over 1,000 liters of oxygen. Why is that a good idea? Okay, so as you fill up this reservoir, then when you're doing your high-intensity interval training, which lasts about 15 minutes for a session, you're going to be breathing a lot of oxygen. In fact, you'll be breathing more than this machine. This is a 5-liter machine right here. But you can also get a 10-liter from them as well. Those are the most standard ones in the industry, 5-liter or 10 liters per minute. You generally can breathe more than the machine can put out. So what does that mean? Most other EWOT devices out there, there's really only a couple brands other besides this one, just use the machine, and the mask a lot of times for the other ones is also not that good. So in other words, every time you breathe out, a lot of times you're blowing away the oxygen, so you're losing part of the oxygen from the machine, these other brands that I'm talking about. And then also you can breathe in actually more than it can even deliver in the first place because of the flow rate, which means you're missing out on, if your body is demanding more oxygen than you can supply it, you're missing out on potential benefits, potential ability to satisfy your body's needs for some sort of accelerated healing process, essentially, okay, or performance process. So then you tap into this reservoir. With the 5-liter machine, it takes about an hour and a half to fill this up. 10-liter machines, maybe 45 minutes. 10 liter per minute is pretty common for commercial settings where they're doing more sessions per day and they need to fill this up faster. But essentially, that's it. That's all there is to this, and people get massive results. So essentially, compared to hyperbaric, because you're increasing your metabolic rate and demand, when you're laying in a hyperbaric chamber, you're practically taking a nap in there. Your body is, your heart rate, the demands of the body are very low. It's very passive. Now, if you have somebody that's very sick, or your immune system, you're listening right now, is not that strong, or you're still recovering from something, you may need to use hyperbaric. Do a few sessions with that firstly before you can actually handle exercising. Because to really reap the benefits of this system, you really need to exercise intensely. And yeah, so that reservoir, by the way, I didn't make that point, was you can breathe as much oxygen as you need, basically, from that reservoir, okay? So compared to hyperbaric, okay, you're basically going to, on a live O2, you're using basically your body, your heart, your lungs. Arterial pressure, this is the key, is increasing. That is what is delivering and dissolving more oxygen to cells. When you're just laying in a chamber, it's not. You're not making your body have to do the work, first off, okay? So in fact, it's better to train your body this way ideally, okay, because it's like strengthening anything in your body. Then when you're not doing this, your body and your ability to create more arterial pressure has increased, which is pretty cool when you think about it. But this can reach up to 20 times the normal blood fluid oxygen levels. And then on blood plasma, you get about 4 times the plasma oxygen as hyperbaric. So in other words, it really is like hyperbaric on steroids, because again, you're leveraging your metabolic pressures or increase in enzyme. Everything is very different when you're exercising, and the demands on your body as well. Okay, so in general, hyperbaric chambers create about half the water oxygen saturation needed for this therapy to take effect. So in other words, you'll still get benefits with hyperbaric, but this is, whatever it is, 15 times faster. It's just way, way more efficient. Okay, so that's why, for example, with TBIs, we're seeing just incredible results with this. People, just what would normally take probably a month of hyperbaric treatments, after just a few treatments, we're seeing the same kind of changes in the brain with certain types of testing when doing a LiveO2 high-intensity training, interval training. Anyways, they do the bike most often, just FYI, because running on a treadmill, the mass can kind of slip off and on. It's just easier on a bike. You're more under control. You can stand on the bike while biking, plus you can sit. Okay, so what else? Here's a few of the benefits. Oxygen is just crucial for everything. So one other thing now, why is this system, this LiveO2, again, another reason it's even better than other brands, or even better than hyperbaric, because they also have what's called adaptive contrast or altitude contrast. Now, with that system, you do hypoxic modes of training. Hypoxic means a deficiency of oxygen when you're training, and then also greater than atmosphere normal concentration. So in other words, with the altitude contrast, there's a little section that's sectioned off in this reservoir right here, and that contains 15% oxygen levels. The atmosphere is about 22, more or less, or 22 to 24, so it's less. You're breathing in less while you're training. It pushes the body, the heart rate increases, the blood flow maximizes, because the brain and the heart literally say, uh-oh, I don't have enough oxygen to do this kind of work. You then switch and flip mode after a few seconds on that to the 85, it actually works out to end up being like 80% oxygen concentration then in the rest of the chamber. You switch back and forth between the two reservoirs. Switch mode training. Why do you do that? Because in hypoxic modes, you max your blood flow and heart rate. And then with the EWAT, you max your oxygen levels. Those are normally mutually exclusive. Okay, normally if you have plenty of oxygen, your heart will literally beat less and your blood flow will constrict. So you're able to create these little windows in time where everything's maxed out, which is even more powerful. So you can plateau eventually with an EWAT more or less, but with hypoxic modes of training, you can just keep pushing yourself and pushing yourself and pushing yourself with no end to that threshold. So you can achieve a lot more and a lot more efficiently as well. And actually you don't even need to sprint as hard, realistically, if you have the altitude contrast, because you can just make your body do harder work by going hypoxic, essentially. And using that versus pushing again so hard with just pure, if you're just dealing with oxygen. So that could be good for people that can't exercise quite as intensely. Altitude contrast can be actually better for them. Anyways, I sell a ton of this equipment and people love it. Clinics love it. It's just incredible. Just basically how efficient it is and what it does for the body compared to other things out there. Very reasonably priced, I think, as well, for considering what it does. And that's basically the end of the presentation on just a few of the really good, what I think are some of the highest efficacy therapies for the brain. There are other things out there, of course. There are supplements that are excellent. You can always chat with me about. It's always good, obviously, to supplement with, certain things that will help and aid the brain and protect the brain, of course. And there's a lot of supplements out there. I do know what are some of the best ones. I've been studying for a few thousand hours to kind of figure that out. So again, you always want to go for a holistic sort of functional approach, right, to healing yourself. But these are some things that some of the leading healing centers are doing and are using. Sometimes at the same time, sometimes in conjunction. I didn't talk about intranasal light therapy. There's an excellent LED device that we could go over if you want to reach out to me on my website anytime. Intranasal is good stuff. It's releasing photons and energy into the hemoglobin in the nasal cavity, and that flows then to the brain. That's how that works. They're getting good results with it. And I would say that's about it for now. Again, I might make other recommendations of other products or pulsed electromagnetic frequency products, just depending on your unique set of needs, either as a practitioner or just a home user. But again, thanks for watching and hanging in there with a long video here. Spread the knowledge about this information. Pay it forward. People need to know about this stuff. Again, my website's healthhacksreview.com. If you just want a quote on something, I can always just also send you a price quote. I really deal with just kind of all kinds of stuff, and my consultations are always free. Reach out anytime. Thank you for listening.